Got a question from a woman who's been training jiu-jitsu for a little while, and she, still new to it, but she recently came across a post made by a guy black belt, and he said, quote, "Women don't need to be coddled in jiu-jitsu. The bad guys are not going to take it easy on you. Train with men, you will learn to defeat them with hard work and discipline," end quote. And so she read that post, she saw it, coming from like a black belt, and she sent me the message, she's like, "What do you think about this?" She's like, "It makes me feel kind of weird and kind of like, alienated to a degree." But she's like, "Maybe I'm just taking it to heart or taking it the wrong way." And so she sent me that message. And so I think you didn't want to be named. So usually we give the guys the anonymous name of Bob. We'll call you Barbara. So Barbara, thank you for the question. So first off, I don't have the full context to what this guy was talking about, but I kind of get the gist of it, right? But the first thing I would say to you is don't put too much stock into social media posts. That's number one, right? That's like a life lesson. Just don't put too much stock in it. As a guy who puts his friggin' bearded face all over the internet, trust me on this one, right? Now that said, let's talk about this idea of coddling women in jiu-jitsu, right? I know this is going to piss off like someone. No matter what I come at people with, whenever we talk about the dynamics of men and women training together, it always pisses off someone. But here's the idea with it. I'm not even going to talk about it from really a hardcore woman-man standpoint. I'm not going to talk about the inherent physical differences of men and women. I'm not going to get into any of that stuff. I'm going to talk about it as a very simple way of how you should treat every frickin' roll that you do in the gym, regardless of who you roll with. So let's say that I have a young white belt that comes into my gym. He says, "Chewy, I want to be a black belt world champion someday. That's what I want to do." Cool. So he comes in, it's his very first day, he's never wrestled, never done anything in his life with jiu-jitsu. And I have won a black belt world championship in no-gi at my respective age and weight class, right? So I say, you know what, I'm going to show you what this is going to feel like someday. And I go at him as hard as I can. Now, we all know that's going to be a recipe for disaster. That poor bastard is going to get injured with submissions he's never heard of and arm locks he's never seen. And if not, he's probably going to be traumatized and really discouraged by the experience. And he's probably going to be like, this place isn't for me, right? So what do I do with him? I take him in. I roll with him lightly in a way where he can explore the jiu-jitsu nature of it, explore the rolling situation without getting injured, without getting too discouraged. If he makes a big mistake, like reaches back too much, I'll triangle him and punish him. Let him know, hey, that's not the right thing to do. Kind of like a little baby, Don't do that. And then if he does the right thing, I'll reward him by giving him, something, right? Like, oh, you did the right pass. You put your grips in the right place. Go ahead and pass. And then over time, we build that person up slowly, little bit by little bit, until eventually that person can go with me and we can go tit for tat and we can go as hard as we want to go. I have a wall of black belts right here. You can see them. Most of these guys were homegrown. I've done this a few times, right? Had a lot of them here. And we've got a lot of tough brown and purple belts and blue belts too, who can get after it as well. Now, let's say I'm rolling with an older black belt. This has happened numerous times. I've rolled with older black belts, 50s, 60s, that kind of thing. Technically, very sharp. They know all kinds of cool stuff that I've never seen before. Technically, they're very sharp. But physically, they're old and broken. So what do I do with them? I don't go hardcore physical, like strength and power and speed, athleticism. I dial it back a little bit. I engage with them. Play the grips a little bit more. Give and take a little bit. And again, have fun doing it. It's a great experience, and I hope that some young guy will do the same thing for me someday. And then there's those rolls where I'm rolling with someone who's at the same skill level as me, or even better than me in some cases. When I go with those people, I'm still protective of them, right? Because when we're rolling, like let's say, for instance, I'm going and I'm getting ready for a competition, I'm getting some real hard competition rolls, and all of a sudden I catch someone with an elbow. In a competition, I would just keep going, right? Because that stuff happens. Headbutts, elbows, all this stuff. I come out of every competition with black eyes and busted bruises all over my face. It's par for the course. But in the gym, I'm going to stop and go, hey, bro, you good? You good, man? Is everything all right? Because I'm trying to take care of my training partner. I'm trying to be protective of them. And so again, a lot of times we look at training or people training, and if they only have one speed, which is hard, like go fast, we typically look at that person as like, you're not very skilled, like, right? But as you get better and better, you typically have gears. You can turn it up, you can turn it down. You can adjust to people, as you should be, right? Because everybody's got like something unique going on. We're all in a different place, all got different skill levels, different weights, all kinds of stuff. So you just adjust with your training partners. What I'm getting at here is that we all coddle each other a little bit in jiu-jitsu. We're all protective of each other to some degree, right? And you should be. You should be protective of someone depending on the differences in the unique situation of that person, right? Now let's talk about women for a second. I have some really good friends and training partners that are female and they're black belts. One of my female black belts here at the gym, she's very tough. She's a beast. She's more technically proficient in certain areas of jiu-jitsu than I am. She's also 120 pounds soaking wet. So when I roll with her, there's just a physical reality of like, if I fall on you the wrong way, it's 205 pounds, I might pop a rib or something like that. This would also be the same would be true if it was a 120 pound dude, right? Like I had a buddy of mine, Christian Woodmansey, who came out here, who's a small guy, right? We start going very technical, good grips. And so we start engaging. And again, I'm not like gonna go full hardcore crazy on him and try to like flop on him in the way that I would if he was like a 250 pound college wrestler who's trying to do a wrestle up. Different situations, right? I also have a friend who's a female black belt named Jen, who was like a farm girl when she was young, got into powerlifting and lifting, and then now she does jiu-jitsu and she weighs around 200 pounds. She's a bruiser. She's tough. And like when I was rolling with her, I was like, I got to give her a lot more oomph, a lot more physical oomph than I'm used to, right? But I just adjusted. I feel like that, right? And that's what I'm kind of trying to get at with this video. No matter who you're rolling with, you're always trying to feel it out a little bit, right? Kind of feeling where they're at. This is, to me, it's a skill you should be trying to develop, where you can roll with literally anyone and you can get something out of it. And again, a lot of times when I'm rolling with people that are less skilled than me, I just focus on certain techniques and I'm trying to use it almost as active drilling. And sort of off on another side tangent, I know I'm throwing a lot of this out there, I've even coddled, if you want to call it that, guys who are really tough, like my buddy Brandon Reed. Many of you guys know who he is, the wrestler. Took third at the trials recently. Very tough young guy. When he came in here in his junior year of school and he had another year of wrestling ahead of him, when he came in and rolled, just like sort of during Christmas, I told everybody, I was like, hey, no arm bars on him. Now, you can watch us rolling. He's like going all over the place or whatever. And I was willing to try to go for chokes and stuff, but I'm not going for an arm bar. Because he doesn't know what they are. And he did, at the time he had his college season ahead of him, I didn't want him to get his arm popped or a shoulder lock where he can't continue wrestling, right? So we coddled him a little bit. We were overprotective in that area for him and adjusted. And so again, I don't think this is a crazy controversial topic or controversial way of explaining it, but just freaking adjust to the training partners. Now, listen, if you're getting ready for a hard competition roll or a competition match, like I do sometimes, then I will focus my rolls on people that are specifically around my same weight or larger, who are also big, strong guys that I can really get after it with. But on day-to-day where I'm just training to enjoy myself, I will roll with whoever, any size, male or female, doesn't matter to me, and I'll get something from it, and I do. And again, I have plenty of good records in competition. I do plenty fine. It's not like this is hindering my skill. In fact, I think it enhances it. Now, listen, I'm not trying to white knight this stuff either. I'm not trying to be like that guy, right? I'm just letting you know, right? This is just like, it doesn't have to be such a complicated issue. Also, too, what's worth talking about for a second, because in the comment, the guy is like, bad guys, right? Women get ready for the bad guys. Rah. First off, not everybody in jiu-jitsu is training for bad guys. We're training for a lot of different reasons. We might be here for community, competition, learning new stuff, exercise, lots of different things, right? It may not have family, like a lot of people bring their families in. And then again, being able to defend yourself is a nice bonus, right? But not everybody's training for that. But even if you were, understand, we're not training for situational realism, right? The situation that we're in the gym is not realistic to anything. Right, where else do you have mats and you're sitting there like wrestling around? It's not realistic in anything. What's realistic is the skills that we develop, that we can transfer to other situations, such as a self-defense situation. For instance, stress inoculation, being able to developing the skill of dealing with stress. When someone grabs a hold of you, instead of freaking out, you learn to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. And that's very useful because it allows you to have a problem-solving mindset under heavy levels of stress. Physical stress, right? That's something that many of us experience when we were in jiu-jitsu, where we come in the beginning, someone puts us in a headlock, we're freaking out, we get exhausted in 1 minute as a new white belt. Later on as a black belt, some guy puts you in a headlock and you're just like laying there like half asleep, wondering what you're gonna eat for lunch tomorrow, right? You don't care, it's not a big deal. The ability to grapple. Right? There have been numerous stories of women who have used jiu-jitsu to defend themselves and keep themselves out of trouble, right? The ability to grapple, the ability to wrestle around and do those things, that's a very useful skill and it can be transported elsewhere. But again, the idea though is that with skills take time to develop. We have to have these people. If you're gonna have like a woman or a man, doesn't matter. If you're gonna have them and you're gonna develop the skills, we have to do this for a long period of time to make it work. That's the magic of anything. The magic of jiu-jitsu is consistency and long periods of training consistently. That's what it is. And so if I have that new young white belt that wants to be a world champion, I can't get him to that level unless we've been training for a really long time. So I got to take care of that guy. Got to coddle him a little bit. If I get this woman that comes in, whether she wants to be a world champion or she wants to be able to fend off the bad guys, we have to bring her up slowly so she can develop the level of intensity necessary for that situation, right, over time. And so we adjust a little bit to make sure that we keep her safe and also play with her at the level that she's at so that she can continuously inch up bit by bit. Just like we would the white belt guy who wants to be the world champion or whatever. And so again, that's it. That's the idea. That's my thoughts on it, Barbara. So again, I don't think that's too crazy of an idea, but I'm curious. What do you guys think? If you're a woman, what do you think about that idea? What do you think about the post? Anything that came to mind when you're watching this video? And if you are a guy, what do you think? What are your thoughts about it? Again, I know these videos can always be a little interesting with the comments. But again, usually our comment section in YouTube is pretty constructive. So throw your comments down below. I'll check them out at some point. But that's the idea, guys. Adjust with your training partners so that we can all get better. Adjusting to the situation, and understand that with jiu-jitsu, when it comes to realism, we're not actually in situational realism. We're developing skills that are very real, that we can use in all sorts of different places, but we can only develop them if we develop them over a long period of time. And so in that sense, we coddle everyone in jiu-jitsu just a little bit until they don't need to be coddled, and then we go a little harder with them later on, right? That's the idea. So anyway, talk to you guys next time.